What's good? Nosara's back. This is Index Red, and wanted to give some thoughts on the unfortunate assassination and the sad moment in our country to see with Charlie Kirk no longer with us. I found out at work. I was shocked. Uh, People at work don't know my politics, and a lot of people, I don't know if they even really knew who Charlie Kirk was, but one of my coworkers did, and was like, man, it's like, damn, that's crazy. I didn't even get to kind of see the reaction. I mean, everybody goes to X, I think, for the most part. That's where all the active people are politically. And then obviously it's been basically nonstop discussion about this. Charlie Kirk is one of the, or was one of the most brilliant political strategists that I know of, definitely of my lifetime, and one of the smartest. He was very instrumental in helping Trump win in 2024, and he's only 31 to my knowledge. Very young man, excellent debater, extremely bright, extremely well read. Could learn so much from him uh, on many of his shows, and the it's a complicated aftermath though. So I'm not going to be going too much into. You could go to Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, people who knew him to get a better breakdown of him personally and all that. I just listened to his show, and very similar to Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles, admired him, thought that he had potential that was untapped. And he was young. 3 years ago, I think I used the term Judeo Christian values on this channel. That's I mean, I started the channel in 2020. So within the last 3 years, I've used that term. And the reason I bring that up is I'm 47 now. Charlie Kirk, uh, he called himself a Christian. I'm in a different place where I don't really consider the Zionist Christians as Christians, recognizing the current people who refer to themselves as Jews, as biblical Jews, basically. But he purported himself to be Christian, and that's not to say he's a bad person, but my point is he was only 31 years old, and we don't know where his views were going to be if he had the chance to live until 40, 50 years old. What I want to talk about is the aftermath. The aftermath is pretty insane after he's gone, to see where everybody is in their different camps. It has gotten worse throughout the years. The first time I noticed it was when Rush Limbaugh died. That's the first time I noticed it. It's been like this slowly because of the internet, basically, and it's very vitriolic at this point, especially with how he was killed. And I think that's the most interesting, or that's where I can kind of talk the most in the aftermath. And a lot of the criticism I have in the aftermath are people who call themselves on the right. I don't consider the Groypers and Nick Fuentes a right wing. So when I say the right wing, I'm not talking about. If I want to talk about Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, I will single them out. I don't call them far right. They're white Christian. I don't know if they mind Christian versus Catholic. They're white Catholic men. That's what they are. That's not a right, or you can try to put them in the right or whatever. But for my purposes, I'm not considering them right wing. There is overlap, but when I say there are problems with the right, I am talking about Con Artist Incorporated, and most of them. I have to look at Matt Walsh and see where he's at. He seems to be branching out of a little bit away from most of the Con Artist group, but that's where I'm gonna go is on the right. So we found out what happened, and many people were asking questions about Israel. And of course, I'm going to be asking questions of Israel. And until I see proof to not name them as a suspect, they're a suspect in anything that has to do with American politics. And I don't even view our country as America anymore. I view our country as Israel, not as like some meme or a joke. We're Israel. And I view Benjamin Netanyahu more as our president than Donald Trump. And I know I'm not saying that to be alarmist. I'm just telling you where I'm at. Maybe I'm crazy. I've completely acknowledged that could be a possibility. But that's how I view things right now. And so the real leaders, the real control of our politics at the federal level is 100% through Israel. If Israel does not, and it's maybe almost like a check and balance, maybe like you're in charge of something and you have veto power, and some of the minutia you don't care about, as long as it doesn't go against a certain interest. So when we talk about the assassination, and this is an assassination, my friends on the left are wrong on a lot of things. I don't know why Charlie Kirk triggers them so much. But really, the real people who are off are on the right. And even the Groypers and Nick Fuentes are off a little bit on the right. And maybe I'll get to that. But the con artist group is really, really on the core on the right. And to be clear, Nick Fuentes and the Groypers I'm mostly aligned with them. I would say about 90% aligned with them. But the 10% we're off on is a pretty significant thing. And I'm talking about censorship. But so let me just go back to the beginnings before we knew who did this or who allegedly did this. The stories are just very odd to follow. So we don't know who did it at the point, obviously, when it happens for the first 33 hours or whatever the Jeet who's running our FBI said. We don't know who did it. And so we don't even have much evidence. They arrested the wrong guy. They arrested this guy, Zin, who I believe he got detained or something like that. He was involved in other tragedies. I'm not going to sidetrack on that, which is very weird. But so they detain or arrest two people who are wrong, and so the FBI is just in shambles. Kash Patel's even. It sounds like he was tweeting while he was eating dinner in New York. Had no idea what was going on. Thought they had the guy. Didn't vet it properly. What a mess his FBI has been. And it all fits because Trump, MAGA, FBI, they're always weird and off when it comes to the topic of Israel. That's what happened with the Epstein situation. That's what happened with RFK, basically saying his first message was the first thing he did when he took over Health and Human Services is say that being anti-Semitic is bad for your health, basically. All of this weird stuff comes from the same place. It's doing the bidding of that country. So when Charlie Kirk is assassinated, that has to be the first place to go. Charlie Kirk was one of the. It's tough to even say was with it's that stunning. I mean, the day I found out, I just couldn't believe it. Charlie Kirk was one of the most powerful political figures. I mean, you could make an argument that he was the most powerful political figure in our country outside of Donald Trump. You can make that argument because he had an organization that controlled the youth. That is the future. You're planting the seeds for the future. And I can definitively say there is no one that had more power over the political youth of our country than Charlie Kirk. That's a very powerful person. That's not on a local level. That is on a nationwide level, and it's a testament to his genius. Just an absolute brilliant dude. And recently I haven't listened to much of him because of I'm just in a different place. But that doesn't mean I lost full respect for him or I can't be objective when discussing Charlie Kirk. Just absolutely incredible and a humble guy. He never really bragged about his organization and stuff like that. He was like a um, head coach. He was like a great head coach. The head coach doesn't necessarily know all the ins or outs of uh, the offensive lineman technique and stuff like that. He puts the right people in places. That is the skill that you need to build a TPUSA. The Jews could not build a TPUSA. That's very important. He was a straight, white, self-described Christian male who had the most powerful influence over the future of politics in America. Is any of that in dispute at this point? So that makes you a target. Not from the left. It makes you a target from everybody politically. It makes you a target from people who align with you politically because they would like to be in that spot. It makes you a target of people who want control of that youth group. Charlie Kirk recently deboed TikTok. Why do you think Charlie Kirk was so big on we've got to control TikTok? He's into the young group of people. College campuses. And capturing that energy. They're the ones that are going to be on the Supreme Court. They're the ones that are going to be the governors. We're already seeing some of them. Paulina Luna was a TPUSA person in Congress and shaping the future of politics. It wasn't the RNC. So you had a lot of suspects there. The textbook neocon Republicans were probably higher on the suspect list than anybody on the left. So to hear people talking about the left when after this happened and still talking about it is just mind-boggling to me. This doesn't have any signs of the left, of whatever that means. The neoliberal left or the progressive left, this is not the typical sign of the left. So many people like myself started asking questions about Israel. And the number one thing people said was, well, you kind of fell away from I didn't really have people chatting me, but just generally speaking, you people like myself who question Israel and Jews openly, you people said that Charlie Kirk was too protective. He was too Zionist. That doesn't make any sense. Just minutes before it happened, that was your position. How could that change now? Well, there's many things to say and retort to that. Number one, if you don't think Israel and Jews would eliminate someone who's pro-Israel and Jew, then you don't understand pro-Israel and Jews. This is a savage. It's in a different way than your typical low IQ black on a subway train or a bus or whatever. But it is equally or more savage in a more macro way. The ideal is the preservation of the state of Israel for Jews. That is the goal. It doesn't matter if they have to eliminate select people. Part of the theory that Charlie Kirk himself was getting down the road towards after October 7, he never went to that place, but he started going there saying, well, I've been to Israel. Charlie Kirk said that. This isn't possible. I'm paraphrasing. It's just not possible. I mean, the story that's laid out that these sand people paratrooped across the border and nobody knew for hours, it just doesn't line up. It's not possible. Charlie Kirk said that after October 7th. We find out later that allegedly the Israeli government eliminated some of their own people after that. They have an edict that is part of the protocol. They will eat their own if they need to. And Charlie Kirk was not their own. Don't forget that you will always be goyim to them. It doesn't matter, Brandon Tatum. It doesn't matter, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. I think Matt Walsh might be seeing that right now. It doesn't matter, Tucker Carlson. It doesn't matter. You are not them. So don't tell me that they wouldn't eliminate Charlie Kirk. That makes no sense. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not even accusing. Let me be clear. If I want to accuse, I will accuse. I'm asking questions. This is weird. Who benefits from this? That's the number one story right now for me. And instead, the same usual suspects who drive all of the media traffic are still talking about the left. How does the left benefit from this? They don't benefit from this. It makes no sense. There's no bubbling up of a topic that benefits the left after this. What does that even mean? The left is so vague. The left is too vague. Are we talking about the establishment neocons? Charlie Kirk had become so popular when I was still listening to his show, which he was the best, probably the most direct replacement. What's his name? Travis Clay, I believe, or Clay Travis, and then Buck Sexton. Nothing against those guys, but they are not Rush Limbaugh replacements. Charlie Kirk was the most Rush Limbaugh replacement that we saw. Had a great show. And he did try to be like Rush, not that those other guys were, but he was the replacement for Rush Limbaugh. Obviously not. Nobody other than Nick Fuentes is in that elite level of Rush Limbaugh. But Charlie Kirk was the voice. Charlie Kirk had senators who all obviously, I hope we're not arguing on this channel, every single senator is beholden to that country. You can argue maybe a couple people in the House. I'm not even sold about them. But if you do, it's like 4, or is it even 5 at this point? Oh, the senators went to Charlie Kirk to grovel at his feet. It was unbelievable to see the rise of Charlie Kirk over the years to the point where he's openly, and he was very respectful guy. Very respectful, but challenging the most powerful politicians on the right in our country. They went to him and they were on their knees to him when they went to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is not one that the senators wanted to cross. He was a problem for these guys. Senators don't like groveling to people other than their donors. Charlie Kirk was just a political guy. He had his own donors. And to me, the impression I got is that they were jealous that Charlie Kirk was more free. He didn't have to go to DC. He had more power than a lot of them. Maybe more than all of them. And he didn't have the same restrictions as they did. They hate that. So I think there was a lot of people who are saying that they're sad that Charlie's gone, that they're not sad at all. That they're pleased and happy that he's gone. I'm going to play a little bit of this video from Propaganda Incorporated along the same lines of what I'm speaking about.
Did Israel kill Charlie Kirk? The alleged shooter is now in custody, turned in by his own father. Case closed, right? A lone gunman a young man chasing infamy, the assassin of one of America's most popular political activists, the most viral political assassination in modern history. But there's an issue, a very serious issue. Given how authorities have handled this investigation, we can't treat their information as concrete. So it begs the question, what if there is more to this story? Shortly after Kirk's assassination, speculation of Israel's involvement spread like wildfire. The claims were so viral that a newsman—
And I'm just going to go through this video a little bit. If you want to do the video uninterrupted, I got it from X, Propaganda and Company at at PROPANDCO. If you want to see the whole video, I'm going to touch on the reaction of the left and the cancellation. This new push from the right to get people fired from their jobs, and that's going to be about it.
Max journalist was forced to ask Benjamin Netanyahu himself during an interview where he appeared agitated and nervous as he denied the allegations.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, and it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. It's not only insane, I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying this. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this.
This speculation about Israel being behind Charlie Kirk's assassination came across as absurd to many people, myself included, given Kirk's history of loyal servitude to Israel and the Zionists. I mean, what motive would Israel have for killing their own loyal subject? But then came this bombshell. Journalists Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil revealed Kirk was beginning to break ranks with the Zionists. He was questioning Israel. He was refusing Zionist money and platforming critics. And for that, he was met with intimidation and backlash from powerful Zionist figures. He was afraid of them. In this video, we'll dive into the article, lay out the claims, and we'll confront the very important question. Was Charlie Kirk's assassination just the act of a lone gunman? Or was it a violent coup by Israel to gain control over the most influential conservative organization in America?
So that's the intro of it. Maybe I'll go into it deeper at some other point, but I think Charlie Kirk was clearly conflicted. I think Matt Walsh is clearly conflicted. Those are just two that I can name. And so I want to kind of talk about the reaction from the left. I think if you are celebrating the death of anybody, that's something to think deeply internally about where you're at. I can't imagine that people with children would do that, whether your child sees you celebrating it or not. But I'm sure there's people out there that did. But I think what my feedback is more to the right. So people celebrated or didn't care. They're apathetic or literally celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. But the real big picture is we've been celebrating death for quite some time. And obviously, when we look at the Middle East and what Israel is doing, it's beyond that, but that's the biggest topic right now. Charlie Kirk supported and defended it. That's what we're seeing in the video here right now. He supported, defended everything Israel was doing over there.
Spreading the myth of Judeo-Christian values.
This country was founded on a Judeo-Christian construct, which is a gift from the Lord, and we must honor that.
He routinely claimed Israel was America's greatest ally and propagated the false claim that Palestinians never existed.
What you trying to say?
I don't think the place exists.
What?
Because it doesn't. It's called Judea and Samaria. It's not
So
called
you don't
Palestine. It's a non-existent place.
So we have discussion like that as Israel is literally, are we arguing that as Israel is literally murdering women and children? For the right to act as if they have a high horse to talk about reaction to death and destruction is truly despicable. You don't have to like that people celebrate it, and that obviously certainly wouldn't be me. I don't celebrate anybody's death. I could be apathetic. I said I was apathetic after the United Healthcare CEO passed. I wasn't a friend of his, wasn't an ally. Don't support it, but I was apathetic. But for somebody from the right who supports that literal murder of thousands of people, to get upset when someone else is apathetic or even celebrates the death of Charlie Kirk is just truly disappointing to see. Because this is an opportunity to look at yourself as well. If Charlie Kirk right now, or Charlie Kirk was, and people who support Charlie Kirk right now are supporting Donald Trump, they're supporting people who are actually funding literal murder. If you don't want to call it genocide, it's definitely murder. That's what collateral damage is. How dare you comment on how other people react to death and destruction? You haven't reconciled that with yourself, obviously. If your take is, I don't like it, I'm gonna move on from it, then I can live with that. I can see that. If not, then I challenge you to do better. And then the cancellation attempts in regards to it. And that this one does apply. Nick had a great stream 2 nights. It was Thursday, I believe. Great stream. Had over almost 200,000 people watching, over 1 million views. It was like a sermon. Watched every second. It was captivating. So I don't want it. I have rare moments of strong disagreement. I don't think I've ever even had a disagreement this strong against Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, and I've gone back and forth with some of the Groypers on it, and they've always been respectful to me in disagreement. But this push to say people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's passing should be censored is absolutely ridiculous. Number one, our government is Zionist occupied. There is no censorship of any way, shape, or form. I don't care what the topic is that I would support from this government. That's insane. But let's say that the take is just generally speaking, because that's what I have to assume. I mean, you can't assume that you want, maybe it is that the take is you want Donald Trump censoring people. I mean, he's just a 80-year-old puppet of your enemy. That's truly insanity. And then predictably after Nick's live, they try to blame the Groypers for the assassination. Of course it failed. I mean, it's such a stretch. But that's right after you said the same people who are blaming the Groypers should be potentially, I don't know if that's the take, they should be in charge of censorship. That's just an asinine take. Just completely asinine. But let's assume the best faith argument to me is that the assumption is that it is a Christian ruled government. And we want to ban people who celebrate death. Well, I didn't hear you call for Charlie Kirk to be censored. So where is this coming from? So I'm confused. Is this new? Or why is this the push to cancel people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's death? But while Charlie Kirk, of course, Charlie Kirk was challenged by the right or by the Groypers, but I didn't see a push to get Charlie Kirk censored, though. So help me reconcile that. What's happening? Is this something new? Is it just emotional? And then on top of that, what is the Christian value here? What is the morality here? What problem does this solve to say, this is a Jewish trait, by the way, to say, you said something I don't like, it's not illegal, I don't think speech in general should be illegal, but we think you should be fired from your job. That is a Jewish trait to say, basically what they're saying is we want you dead, but I don't want to say it. I don't want it to come across as that. Because the take is, I don't want you to ever be hired by anybody for the rest of your life. The take is, even if you start your own business, I don't want anyone to buy anything from your business. You should be ostracized. You should be either homeless, you should starve to death and die. That is the take. That is the stop anti-Semitism trait. That is Jewish. That is Israeli behavior. It is disgusting. It is anti-Christian. That is a big mistake. So while I agreed with, I would say 90% or more of the position, and I leave grace because it is somebody tried to kill Nick Fuentes, the leader of the movement that I think is the best movement in our country, the most white pill, optimistic leading movement in our country with courageous white Christian males. And as a observer of that movement, as a friend of that movement, my feedback, and I leave room to be wrong, tell me, convince me otherwise. My feedback is be very careful where you're at emotionally and what you're proposing, because that goes against the values. And I know some people were giving me passages and talking about people being exiled from the church. That's different than saying someone should never eat, because that is what the take is. For something where there's other people that did the same thing and are doing the same thing now. Why isn't Matt Walsh canceled in the same way? Why isn't Michael Knowles canceled in the same way? Why don't you say the same thing about Ben Shapiro? I haven't heard anybody say Ben Shapiro should be canceled. He should be fired from his job. Nobody should listen to. He should be censored on social media. Why is that? That's weird. Let's start at the top, not with a teacher who is symbiotic with the algorithm, knows it might go viral, or is just confused, hurt, and does a dance because Charlie Kirk is dead. Why are we starting there? Why don't we start with the top? That's where the movement Groypers go. They go after J.D. Vance. They don't go after some random leftist teacher or some random leftist that works for an airline. What the hell's going on? Start at the top and go from there is my respectful recommendation. No, the Jewish behavior is the cancel culture. Charlie Kirk was conflicted on Israel. So we don't know, number one, we don't know what was true in Charlie Kirk's heart in regards to Israel. Charlie Kirk was a political strategist. It is impossible to acquire the political power that Charlie Kirk had without supporting Israel. So you could be subversive and just support Israel, right? I mean, that's something that I think many people do. Oh, I love the Jews. I love Israel. And they really don't, because they want money, power, influence. That's number one. Number two, he openly questioned the JQ. He talked about Jews being anti-white. That's right into the JQ. The JQ for me is, what is a Jew? That's my opinion on it. And then it just, once you ask that question, then you're down the rabbit hole. You're just falling down the black hole. But when you start saying that, Charlie Kirk said this on the show, when you start saying Jews are showing me anti-white behavior, that is in the heart of the JQ. So he not only did the surface level, the government stuff, he got to the heart of the JQ. Was that enough for me? No. But remember, he's one of the most powerful political people in the country. That's enough to make him a target, though. The Jewish behavior is anyone who is supporting, this person did a TikTok. This person did a shirt with Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not disgusting. What I'm saying is you are more disgusting to say, oh, if you want to say, oh, I don't want to buy a product from this person, from this company. That's whatever. To say, I need that person fired is Jewish behavior. It is anti-Christian behavior. I will not support that. It solves nothing. It's cowardice. If you want that person to be unlived, then just say so. It's bitch behavior. Because that's what it is. That's the same behavior I've been calling out from Stop Anti-Semitism. Somebody says something about the hostages or whatever the case is, and they go say, oh, find this person and call up their job. And, oh, look, update, HR fired this person. What the hell are we doing? And notice the people behind it, Libs of TikTok. It's all it's the Binder Nothing Burger crew behind it. And you're on the wave with them on it. Disgusting. I don't even want to entertain Tyler was not a Groyper. And here's my thing. What does that? So say he did watch a certain show or something, and I did this with this one of the people did something and watched Tim Pool, and I was like, what does that mean? Somebody did something and they watched CNN. Nobody says shit about that. I'm not even getting into that conversation. It's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Somebody watched Morning Joe. Nobody says that. Nobody says that shit? What do you mean? Somebody listened to this person and then now it's attached to the person. That's Jewish behavior right there. It's the same behavior as the cancel culture that some Groypers are supporting right now. I would really challenge you to rethink that. I don't even care who he watched or what does that mean? Is he just watched a show? We never do that. They watch Destiny. Of course they watch whatever political. There's a ton of political shows. If somebody they would have seen something. I grew up watching Meet the Press. I mean, what they watched the local. Nobody says they watched the local news and got radicalized. Just completely insane. So I don't even entertain that. It's just a completely disingenuous topic. I don't care what shows or whatever he watched. It is not the Groypers, and I talked about this with Peter Haga. They're completely peaceful group. I've never associate myself with anybody and you saw that in Nick's live, which was a beautiful live, about how to proceed forward with strength, but at the same time, in a God-fearing Christian manner. That's what the message was that I got. It was a sermon, and that's the Groypers. So I don't care what it doesn't even matter to me. This is a stupid conversation. Channel says the shell casing had an Antifa song. Groypers don't. I don't believe in none of that stuff. I don't believe any of that. It's goofy. Sounds goofy. The shell casings. And what is this thing with the shell casings now? I don't buy it. I'm not saying it's not true, but that's not. It's completely, to me, it's just completely out of it's. I don't even consider it a part of the conversation for in my analysis. I'm not ignoring facts, but in my analysis of the situation, the shell casings is completely zero. I don't. It's completely nothing burger for me. It doesn't mean anything at all. Obviously, anybody can write anything on the shell casing. This is completely. What's more important is who benefits. That's not an accusation, but the question is who fills the void. So you have a straight white Christian male who's struggling with his views on Israel, clearly struggling with them openly, and he's gone. Who replaces the void? We've already seen Zionist Alex Jones. We've seen obviously Zionist Ben Shapiro. We've even seen Shmuley say, "I'm going to come in and fill the void." How convenient. We've seen Milo, a gay Jew, say, "I'm going to come in." Charlie Kirk's out now. Now you don't want to deal with me. What, a gay Jew? That's convenient. Change my mind. I'm here to learn, but I'm sure that Charlie supported Israel. Well, I think if we disagree, we disagree. But yes, Charlie supported Israel, but he was conflicted. Is that an argument? Ben Shapiro is not conflicted on Israel. Charlie Kirk was conflicted on Israel. I mean, I haven't shown all the clips. I just haven't had I've watched them. I just haven't had a chance to organize them. I got to be out, but so that's fair criticism for me. I just haven't had enough time to put into the lives. I just go live now. I used to put a lot of prep into. It takes a lot of time. I just wanted to, if I take the time to do the prep, I'm damn near not even going to do the video. But I am slow with prep, that is for sure. But that's my thoughts for right now. And my big takeaway is when we're looking at what's happening here, we have to start with the top, not with the bottom, not with teachers, not with common workers. We need to start with the most powerful people at the top and work our way from down. George Good said, I'm not sure how I was recommended this live stream, but you sound extremely racist, dude. That's true. I think that's basically true. John says, I feel you just honestly want to learn. Yeah, I'm not doing a good job teaching in this one. I'm just going off the top. Maybe it's not really a good one for someone who hasn't been terminally online, but maybe I can do one that will break it down. This video here, I just say go watch this right now. This is very well put together. If I had the time to put or money to pay people to edit videos, it would look like this. That looks like a Richard Medhurst. I love that style. That's just beautiful, and the editing on it's good. I'll just play the video and leave. Just watch this.
Did Israel kill Charlie Kirk? The alleged shooter is now in custody, turned in by his own father. Case closed, right? A lone gunman, a young man chasing infamy, the assassin of one of America's most popular political activists, the most viral political assassination in modern history. But there's an issue, a very serious issue. Given how authorities have handled this investigation, we can't treat their information as concrete. So it begs the question, what if there is more to this story? Shortly after Kirk's assassination, speculation of Israel's involvement spread like wildfire. The claims were so viral that a Newsmax journalist was forced to ask Benjamin Netanyahu himself during an interview where he appeared agitated and nervous as he denied the allegations.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, and it's just the absurdity of it, some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder. And, I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to, make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. It's not only insane, I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this.
This speculation about Israel being behind Charlie Kirk's assassination came across as absurd to many people, myself included, given Kirk's history of loyal servitude to Israel and the Zionists. I mean, what motive would Israel have for killing their own loyal subject? But then came this bombshell. Journalists Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil revealed Kirk was beginning to break ranks with the Zionists. He was questioning Israel. He was refusing Zionist money and platforming critics. And for that, he was met with intimidation and backlash from powerful Zionist figures. He was afraid of them. In this video, we'll dive into the article, lay out the claims, and we'll confront the very important question. Was Charlie Kirk's assassination just the act of a lone gunman? Or was it a violent coup by Israel to gain control over the most influential conservative organization in America? There's a famous expression in Latin dating back to the classical period when attempting to identify criminal suspects. Cui bono, or who benefits? This question comes to mind when considering whether or not Israel is responsible for arranging Charlie Kirk's assassination. To even consider whether or not Israel may be responsible, you first have to believe that they somehow benefited. Therefore, for Israel to benefit from Charlie Kirk's assassination, Charlie Kirk would have to no longer be of benefit to Israel. To many, including myself, Charlie Kirk was a loyal and beneficial propagandist to Israel. He spent his entire career spreading the myth of Judeo Judeo-Christian values.
This country was founded on a Judeo-Christian construct, which is a gift from the Lord, and we must honor that.
He routinely claimed Israel was America's greatest ally and propagated the false claim that Palestinians never existed.
What you trying to say?
I don't think the place exists.
What?
Because it doesn't. It's called Judea and Samaria. It's not
So you
called
don't believe-
Palestine.
you don't believe-
It's a non-existent place.
All of this serves Israel and Zionism. And the organization he founded, Turning Point USA, received tons of financial support from Zionist donors, including the David Horowitz Foundation. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless fire hose of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatribes, accepting propaganda trips to Israel, and sternly shutting down nationalist forces challenging his support for Israel during TPUSA events. So the idea that Kirk was somehow becoming a threat to Israel was absurd. But as many social media users have pointed out, Kirk was, in fact, showing signs of evolution. The same kind of evolution that saw personalities like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Megyn Kelly, to name a few, change their tune in regards to America's relationship with Israel. According to the Gray Zone, as Israel's genocidal assault on the besieged Gaza Strip drove an unprecedented backlash within grassroots right-wing circles, where only 24% of younger Republicans now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians, Kirk began to shift. At times, he towed the Israeli line, spreading disinformation about babies beheaded by Hamas on October 7th and denying the famine imposed on the population of Gaza. Yet he simultaneously ceded to his base, wondering aloud if Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli intelligence asset, questioning whether the Israeli government allowed the October 7th attacks to proceed in order to advance long-term political goals, and parroting narratives familiar to his most vociferous critic on the right, streamer Nick Fuentes. Back in July, Turning Point USA held a student action summit for young conservatives in Tampa, Florida. As head of the organization, Kirk would decide who to platform at this event. In a decision that enraged Zionists, Kirk decided to platform Israel critics Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and comedian Dave Smith. At the event, Tucker Carlson made several incendiary comments, taunting the Zionist billionaire Bill Ackman.
How did Bill Ackman get $9 billion? Bill Ackman, a pretty impressive guy? I know Bill Ackman. No! Bill Ackman's like well-connected and super aggressive. That's it.
And even suggested that Americans serving in the IDF should lose their citizenship.
Because you can only really pledge your loyalty to one person or one country. That's just a fact. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for another country and remain an American, period.
Megyn Kelly suggested that Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad agent.
So he was an American, which leads basically three options: MI6, Saudi, or Mossad.
Yep.
Which one would you choose?
I guess Mossad, given his connection to Ghislaine Maxwell.
So what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's possible that that's the reason everything's getting buried, that there is some treasure trove, and it's getting buried because...
How many people here believe that? Raise your hand. Okay, I'd say about half the hands think that it's being buried because of an Israeli thing.
And Dave Smith heavily criticized Israel's genocidal actions in Gaza.
Because it's not a war, it's the destruction of a captive people. Gaza's been occupied since 1967 by the Israelis, and they're now just slaughtering the people there.
On social media, Zionists went into a frenzy, denouncing Charlie Kirk as a traitor. The Jewish Zionist Laura Loomer tweeted, "After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as a political opportunist. Lately, Kirk has decided to behave like a charlatan. It really is shameful, and honestly, I am just disgusted with the constant flip-flopping on the right." In the Times of Israel, a blogger called Kirk out for promoting anti-Semitism. Quote, "Charlie, what are you doing? You know the difference between good faith critique and coded anti-Semitism. When people obsess over AIPAC while ignoring Qatar, China, Saudi Arabia, the UN, that's not objectivity. That's targeting. Leadership also means knowing when a conversation is no longer a conversation, it's manipulation. It's how the seeds of Jew scapegoating get watered, not by swastikas, but by just asking questions." Finally, she warns, "Charlie, don't abandon your post. You've stood for truth when it wasn't easy. Stand now with Israel, with reason, with your own better judgment." And the Jewish Zionists Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro also voiced their displeasure with Kirk over who he platformed at the summit.
You and I, had people who we thought were conservatives sound a lot like the Marxist Islamists who were attending this event last week, don't they? They find that conservative groups and conservative organizations that have these weekend events and these seminars, whether they're for young people or think tanks or that sort of thing, they sort of sprinkle these events with these kooks, with these American haters who claim to be American firsters and are fake MAGA and even stab the president in the back.
I mean, I think it's definitely an attempt by some of these organizations to quote unquote maintain the big tent. The problem with a big tent is that you may end up with many, many clowns inside.
But the backlash against Kirk wasn't just happening in public, it was being done in private as well. According to the Gray Zone article, Kirk was bombarded with infuriated text messages and phone calls from Netanyahu's wealthy allies in the US, including many who had funded TPUSA. According to his longtime friend, the Zionist donors treated Kirk with outright contempt, essentially ordering him to fall back into line. He was being told what you're not allowed to do, and it was driving him crazy, Kirk's friend recalled. The conservative youth leader was not only alienated by the hostile nature of the interactions, but frightened by the backlash. And apparently, Kirk wasn't just disturbed by Zionist donors or leaders here in America that were calling and texting him. He was feeling the heat from Israel itself through its war criminal president, Benjamin Netanyahu. Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into Turning Point USA, America's largest conservative youth association. In the weeks leading up to his September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personal decisions and weaponized Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the president of the United States had fallen under the control of a malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. The reports of this fear are consistent with other claims made by sources also close to Kirk. A month ago, Harrison Smith, a well-known media personality and political commentator, tweeted out that someone close to Charlie told him that Kirk was worried Israel might kill him for criticizing them. I'm not gonna name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. And Charlie himself told Megyn Kelly a month before his assassination that he was afraid.
But I am sick of being lectured on, like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
I got texts about you, Megyn. Why is Megyn like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megyn's the best. And I said, why are you texting me about Megyn? This is what they don't understand. You and I, Megyn, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker. The more you attack our moral character, the more we're gonna double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay? On some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, but if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megyn, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? I'm an American, okay? Like, I represent this country. The more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megyn, it would be one thing if it was one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I feel the connection to Israel, but at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Megyn and Charlie are enemies,
right?
Boy, I'll tell you, like, you're gonna weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
Now, you might think it's weird that Israel would go to such lengths as to kill a former ally for even beginning to question them. But as several social media users have put it, given the influence and power Kirk had on over 3,500 college campuses across the country as the director of Turning Point USA, the very possibility that he could flip on them was a dangerous threat. The mere possibility that Kirk could start down the same path as Tucker and Candace is enough to send shivers down the spine of any Zionist with half a brain. Losing Kirk, even to a moderate degree, would represent a devastating blow to the Zionist power base in America. Zionist concerns over Kirk's leadership of Turning Point USA, an organization he founded, have been brewing for some time. Over a year ago, Ben Dominic, a co-founder of The Federalist, wrote, "If Charlie Kirk remains the head of TPUSA, the right has an anti-Semite problem." And a few weeks ago, in the Times of Israel, Jewish Zionist Daniela Bloom wrote, "Turning Point must continue to be a safe haven for aligned pro-America, pro-Israel Jews on campus and for future generations." What we have established here is a consistent thread of Zionist outrage over Charlie Kirk's platforming of Israel critics and concerns over his leadership of TPUSA, the most influential conservative organization in America. You see, Turning Point USA isn't just another conservative group. With over 3,500 chapters nationwide, its conferences became the beating heart of Republican youth politics. Charlie Kirk developed it into a machine that energized young conservatives like no one else. Even Donald Trump credited Kirk and TPUSA for his election victory, calling it "your victory, not mine." This is why the stakes were so high for the Zionists. If Kirk had continued drifting toward criticism of Israel, it wouldn't just be another commentator questioning Zionism. It would mean the entire conservative youth movement could begin shifting its views. Unlike Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, or Nick Fuentes, who can be dismissed as fringe and independent commentators, Kirk and TPUSA had mainstream power. They organized the grassroots. They had access to the White House. That is exactly why Netanyahu offered to bankroll TPUSA, to make sure Kirk never turned that influence against Israel. As the founder of this organization, rejecting this funding essentially denied Israel the ability to gain leverage over Kirk's position as leader of the organization. So without access, they couldn't threaten to remove him from the position. And when gangsters can't buy you or control you, well, they kill you.
Kid, you work it out any way you want, but nobody's backing out of the deal.
Mr. Cinelli, I'm sorry, but the bottom line is I'm not selling the company to you.
I'll tell you the fucking bottom line, laddie buck. The Barone routes are now Cinelli routes. That's that.
So even though Kirk routinely amplified Israeli propaganda, simply questioning Israel's actions in a critical light seems to have been a step too far for Zionists who have lost virtually all support from young Republicans. In Charlie Kirk's final interview, he raised what can only be described as the gentlest of questions with Ben Shapiro about ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
We've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so like maybe we should also ask a question: is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
24 hours later, Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck and killed. With Kirk now dead, Zionists began covering up this tension and claiming he was a loyal friend of Israel until the very end. Netanyahu first tweeted prayers for Kirk at 3:02 p.m. in the afternoon on September 10th, minutes after news of the shooting broke. He has since authored 3 additional posts about Kirk, even breaking away from the Israeli war cabinet to spend the afternoon of September 11th memorializing the conservative leader on Fox News. During that interview, Netanyahu did his best to insinuate that Israel's enemies were responsible for murdering Kirk, despite the fact no suspect was named or in custody at the time.
The radical Islamists and their union with the ultra-progressives, they often speak about human rights, they speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies.
None None of this, of course, is concrete evidence that Israel was behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But what this does reveal are three important facts. The first is that Kirk was beginning to criticize Israel, even if it was too soft, too little, too late. The second is that Charlie Kirk was growing frustrated over Israel's attempt to control what he says and who he speaks to. And the third is that the Zionists were also incredibly frustrated with him and worried about his position as the leader of TPUSA. So when it comes to the famous Latin expression cui bono, or who benefits, there is evidence to believe that Israel and the Zionists do. Within 24 hours of Kirk's death, Shapiro announced that he would be launching his own campus speaking tour, vowing, "We're gonna pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it." But what do you think? Is there anything that I'm missing? Let me know in the comment section. And of course, don't forget to read the article by The Gray Zone, which is linked in the comment section below. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and donating to keep me going. Thank you, and take care of yourselves.
Trust nothing. No laws.